Welcome to this video about Thinking Ahead Workbook Step 2. In 2010, two additional workbooks were published. Thinking Ahead Step 2 and Thinking Ahead Step 3. And this was a collaboration between Cor van Weijeren, the original developer of the step method, and Boris Friesen. Boris Friesen is a Dutch chess trainer, and his most famous student was Grandmaster Benjamin Bock. And in Thinking Ahead, Step 2 and Step 3, first a number of moves are given, and then after those moves you have to visualize the position and find a solution. And what is the intent of this workbook? It's to improve your board vision, so to not miss any parts of the board, to see the complete board and to miss not anything that's going on the board. To be completely fluent in naming the squares. And then there's the visualization itself. So you have to have a clear picture of the target position after the moves given, how the dynamics in the position have changed between the pieces, and then of course you have to calculate after the moves given and come to a correct assessment after the variations that you selected should be played. So I'm going to take you through this workbook. In total there are 56 pages, and I've selected from every theme one exercise or two exercises, and you can get a feel for how this works. So in this position, black is to move, and you see the two moves that are given: bishop f4, queen takes c3. And now you have to figure out what is going on, and the theme that is given is the pin. So first let's orient ourselves, right? So if you look at this position, you would say, why is black not playing rook f1 but bishop f4? And of course the reason is that black is in check. So black has to get rid of the check, and the bishop is undefended. So black saves their bishop by playing bishop f4, and now loses the pawn on c3. So how to continue? Normally in a pin you have two pieces on one line, but in this case, can you see what the right continuation is? Of course, when we go to the starting position and also to the position after bishop f4, white has a weak back rank, and black can take advantage of it by playing the move rook c7. That is pinning the queen on c3 to the square on c1. Right, so we have two targets, and so this is a pin on the queen to the square. So just as a reminder, there are three targets in chess. You have material, you have the king, a check, and you have the mating square. And this is an example of pinning material to a square. So let's see what's going on here. Black is to move, and black is playing a rook c8, and white is taking the pawn on e5, and the theme is winning material. So what is going on after rook c8 and followed by bishop takes e5? So the queen on g4 is pinning the knight on d7 to the rook on c8. So knight takes e5 is not possible because we lose the rook on c8. And after queen takes e5, white takes the undefended knight on d7. So what to do? So this is winning material B. So white can, black can win material. How to do it? And the solution is by unpinning by the move f5. So rook c8, bishop takes e5, and after the move f5, the queen is no longer pinning the knight on d7 to the rook on c8, and on the next move we can take the bishop on e5. Again, black is to move, knight c6, bishop f3. What is going on? So the bishop on f3 is attacking the queen on d5, and indirectly the knight on c6. The queen on d5 and the knight on c6 are attacking the bishop on d4. If black saves their queen with queen takes d4, white plays queen takes c6, and it's just a trade. So this is winning material C. So do you see a way to win material in this puzzle? So we have knight c6, attacking the bishop on d4, bishop f3, attacking the queen on d5, and indirectly the knight on c6. And the queen on c3 and the bishop on f3 are having a twofold attack on the knight on c6. So the surprising solution here is knight c6, bishop f3, knight takes d4, bishop takes d5, knight e2, check, double attack on the king on g1 and the queen on c3. So we continue. Oops. Knight takes d4, bishop takes d5, knight e2 with a double attack. Eliminating the defense. Knight g5, queen c7. So knight g5 and the queen on f6 are attacking the pawn on f7. So black decides to bring a defender back and plays queen c7. How the queen is attacking the rook and the queen is attacking f7. How to continue here? So knight g5, queen c7, queen attacking rook d8, queen attacking f7. And the solution is knight takes f7, because if black plays queen takes c7, there is rook takes d8. And if the rook moves away, white has a mate in 1. Can you see the mate in 1? After knight g5, queen c7, knight takes f7, rook to, let's say, e8, knight h6 checkmate. So the threat after knight f7 is actually knight h6, knight takes d8, queen takes d8, you could say. So there's many captures and a mate. And after queen takes f7, queen takes d8, wins the exchange plus a pawn. So knight takes f7, right, and we set rook e8 checkmate. And if the queen takes, we take the rook, and we won an exchange and a pawn. Eliminating the defense, queen e8, and black interposes with queen f8, so it's white to move in this position. Queen e8, queen f8. a very logical move would be to play bishop h7, because the king on g8 is the defender of the queen on f8. And after king takes h7, queen takes f8, white has won a queen. But what would black play in that position? Can you visualize it? Queen e8, queen f8, bishop h7, king takes h7, queen takes f8. Black has made by playing rook d1, and white can interpose once with queen f1, but then after rook takes f1 it's checkmate. So one of my students, Emily, has a sticker on her monitor, and her sticker reads "and then." Right, so queen e8, queen f8, bishop h7, king takes h7, queen takes f8, and then. So that's the question. And we said the answer is rook d1 check. So how can we eliminate the defender, the king, while not allowing a mate on d1 with the rook by black in the final position? Can you find a solution? Well, white has another check, which is bishop c4. And then if the king goes to h7 and queen takes f8 and rook plays to d1, what is the difference? The difference is that white can interpose with bishop f1. So you can see this is step 2, but it's a lot of visualization, it's a lot of naming squares, and definitely not easy. So bishop c4, king h7 takes, rook d1 check, bishop f1. So it says here white is to move, right? But it's only one move given. So actually we have to solve this for the black side. So white plays bishop takes c5 with the idea that if black plays queen takes c5, we take with the king on g2. So what to do? Right? And so some players might think like, let me play bishop h1, threatening mate on g2. But then white can play f3, and basically black is not winning. Black can win a pawn on f3. The bishop takes f3, but queen f2 defends, and black in that position is actually has a completely comfortable position. So bishop h1 is not working. How can we improve? Because we have a nice idea to get a double attack in the position, 2 threats, a mating threat on g2, and queen takes c5. And the solution is bishop h3. So with the mating threat on g2 and with the threat of playing queen takes c5, and now the bishop is no longer under attack. So we moved away the bishop, threatened mate, and threatened to take on c5. Clever ways are the check. So we have bishop b5, pinning the rook on d7, and then queen e4, checking the king. So we have to decide where will the king go. Right? So the king is in check, and it looks of course very promising. Where does the king go after bishop b5, queen e4 check? And so we have to evaluate. After king c1, black has a double attack. Can you find it? double attack is queen to e3 check, with a double attack on the king on c1 and the rook on g1. And after king a2, black also has a double attack. Can you find it? So bishop b5, queen e4, king a2. Black has the double attack, queen d5 check, attacking the bishop on b5 and the king on a2. So the right solution that doesn't allow a double attack on the undefended pieces, the rook on g1 and the bishop on f1, is king a1. So the only way to avoid the double attack is this move, because we said that after king c1, black has queen e3, and after king a2, black has queen d5. So in this book there are also some blindfold exercises, and this is an example. So you see the moves given: e4, d6, bishop c4, knight f6, queen f3, b6. And the question is, how can white win material after b6? And what I noticed in these blindfold exercises, that if it's an opening that you're very familiar with, it's much easier to visualize. But right, if they play 1g4, or in this case the moves are not so obvious, it's harder to visualize. So how is white winning after e4, d6, bishop c4, knight f6, queen f3, b6? So after black plays b6, you would be tempted to say, can I play queen takes a8? Right, because it is weakening the diagonal and we have a queen on f3. Well, that's not possible because there's a pawn on e4. But we're onto something, right? If the pawn is in the way, perhaps we can push it, and then we can get to the solution. We can have a discovered attack and play e4, e5, attacking the knight on f6, and then attacking with the queen, the rook on a8. So also in this workbook, 56 pages, there are a number of blindfold exercises. I think if you compare it to other visualized workbooks, there's a lot of attention here also to what can the opponent do in that position, and did I take that into account? And of course it's aligned with the themes in the step method. So here we have h takes g5, h takes g5. What is going on? So the black takes on g5 and white takes back on g5, and it's black to move. So the h line has opened up, so the rooks, the two rooks on h1 and h8 are staring at each other. And the other thing, of course, is that the queen on f6 is under attack by the pawn on g5. So how do we get out of this situation, and can black win? So the two rooks on h1 and h8 are looking at each other, and the queen on f6 is under attack by a pawn on g5. How to resolve this? And taking a pawn on b2 is not helpful because there's a check, rook takes h8. So we have to look at forcing moves. And the two forcing moves that come into mind are bishop takes f2 and queen takes f2. After bishop takes f2, right, if white would take queen takes f2, then we would be happy, because there's queen takes f2, king takes f2, rook h1, and we won. We lost the bishop, but in the process we won also a rook on h1 and a pawn. But after bishop takes f2, we have to consider the strongest move of the opponent, which is just moving away and playing king d1. And then we're in a pickle because we are still faced with this threat of rook takes h8 and g5 takes f6. So the right solution here is queen takes f2, which saves the queen and forces the exchange, right? I mean, the king can still move away, but then we take, and then we can just take the rook on. Take the rook on h1. Tactics in the opening B. Discovered attack. Queen takes b7, queen e4. Right? So we do the orientation in this position after queen e4. So queen takes b7, queen e4. So the white queen is attacking the black queen on b7. But what else is going on, right? So you're really focused in this position on the two queens that are having a staring contest. But what else is going on? And if you would do the full orientation, you would see that the bishop on a3 is undefended. So the solution then becomes clear, is that we can defend the queen on b7 by interposing, and at the same time attack the bishop on a3 by playing the discovered attack d5. And the queen cannot defend the bishop on a3, and the queen on e4 can no longer take the queen on b7. So here black takes the queen on g4, and then the queen goes to h6. So this is defending against mate b. So just like in the step method, regular workbooks, there's a lot of attention to defending. And what are the threats by white? White threatens mate with queen h8 and threatens mate with queen g7. What is a way to defend against those two mates, queen g7 and queen h8? Can you find a solution? And black can do that by playing bishop h7. So bishop h7 interposes queen h8, and then queen g4 protects the square g7. So it's like the cooperation between two pieces to take care of both threats, the bishop interposing and the queen protecting. Another one, defending against mate. Queen takes h2, queen h3. So the threat is of course obvious, queen g2 checkmate. How to defend against that checkmate? And of course, when you're in this position, right, you can say I have one check with I need forcing moves, because there is an immediate threat, mate. And so you're looking at checks and captures. There are no captures. And you think about who can defend against this mate on g2. The piece who could defend against that is the queen. And where does the queen have to be to defend against queen g2 checkmate? And the queen has to be on f1. Can we gain a tempo to get the queen to f1? And that makes the solution the solution obvious. We play queen a6 check, gaining a tempo to bring our queen back to f1. Queen takes h2, queen h3, queen a6 check, and it allows us to defend with queen f1, because we were thinking about what is our target square and then figured out the route afterwards. intermediate move B. So here we see knight c3, rook c8. What is going on? If white takes b5, takes a6, the knight, then black plays rook takes c3. Is there any way for white to have a good intermediate move by which we can still take on the next move on a6 and save our knight on c3? And the solution is not so difficult. It is queen b3 check, defending the knight on c3 with the queen by attacking the king on g8, and on the next move we can take the knight on a6 and we win a piece. So here, right, we also have some endgames. It's about the passed pawn. So white is to play. White plays e7, threatens promotion, and black plays bishop f3. So what is the idea of black? Well, if white just continues without thinking and plays e8, then black plays bishop c6 check. And then queen takes c6, b7 takes c6, king takes c6, and then the king takes on e3, and the black king is closer to the pawn on g5. So what to do? e7, bishop f3. How can we successfully promote this pawn? Well, if you think about it, right, and after any king move, there will be bishop c6. e8 is not possible, so that leaves us with, by the process of elimination, only one move to consider, which is the move e8. Perhaps we don't even know why it works, but it's the only move worth giving a try. And after e4, bishop takes e4, e8, queen. Now we see what has changed is that the bishop on e4 is pinned, so can no longer play bishop c6 check. So by the process of elimination we found the move e4, if you're not able to find it in a different way. So e4, bishop takes e4, e8, and we see that the bishop on e4 is pinned to the king on e2. One more, defending against the passed pawn, rook b8, king a7. How are we going to defend against e1, queen? Rook b8, king a7, right? If we play rook b1, there's a bishop takes b1, yes. And the bishop on e5 cannot defend against e1, because the pawns on c3 and f2 are in the way. The king is too far away. So what to do? Did you find a solution? White can play rook e8, and after e1, promotion, play bishop d4 check with a discovered attack and win the queen. So the defense is rook e8. With the idea, bishop d4, and white takes the queen. So this is the last one, a very devilish one. So black plays rook b3. What is going on here, right? White can take the queen on f6, and white can take the rook on b3. This looks completely crazy. After queen takes f6, black plays rook b1 checkmate. And after queen takes b3, Black plays queen a1, checkmate. And after pawn takes b3, black plays queen takes b2. So again, right, this seems like impossible to solve, but let's use the same as we did for this passed pawn, where we found the move e4, and say, okay, process of elimination. How much time do I have in this puzzle? I have no time. The queen is under attack. I'm threatened to be checkmated, and I looked at the obvious choices. So I need a forcing move. So then you have to, by process of elimination, go through all the checks in the position. And then you find one check that you would not consider at first instance. And that check is rook h8. And then everything comes together, because then there are two moves. Queen takes h8, right? And after queen takes h8, queen takes h8, king takes h8, and then a takes b3, white is completely winning. And after king takes h8, we take on f6 with check. So rook b3, and the defense is here, preventing loss of material. And the alternative and white is winning. So this is about step 2, thinking ahead. So you can see 56 pages full of challenging puzzles. You should not start with it until you have completely mastered step 2. It will improve your board vision. It will help in mastering naming the squares and your visualization. Get a clear picture of the target position, look at how the dynamics changed, and do the calculation and evaluation. And you see in these puzzles, it's very important to also pay attention to what the opponent can do in a position. Thank you for watching.